You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.
And we're live.
Yes.
Yes, we are. And it's always fascinating to see like the Titan in the background, like appearing and then matching with the weird chin dangling thing that they've got. I have no idea. Darth Kill is our first sub. Thank you very much. Fuck Publi's economy or not to fuck Publi's economy. It's very hard to. I'm gonna have to say fuck the Publi's economy.
Yeah. That's a perfect question, considering we have our lead economist here representing our discussion today.
And we have a lot of interesting things that have been happening in the Galactic Northeast, which we're going to... And we have two guests today. Again, we have Aerith and Hywanto Destroyer from Snuff joining us. I don't believe there's going to be any weird Philly stuff this week, but you never know. And a lot of things have been happening. It seems like spring has hit, and EVE is heading more towards open war, which is the way we like it. What exactly do we want to start off with?
Yeah, we've got like 4 major topics, and they can all be in any order. There's not really a top story, so to speak. Plex prices and the EVE economy are going weird, and Aerith's here to tell us all about it. Hywanto was kind of prophetic last week, and he pulled off a thing Sunday afternoon, and he's here to tell us all about what the hell happened there. I also got commentary from the guy who was on the test side. He can't make it due to real-life commitments. We have another alliance bites the dust, one of the Casino War starter alliances. And then we're going to make fun of Bot and NC Dot because I have interesting audio logs to share with you guys, chat logs, and other things that make the incompetence of NC Dot seem so much more apparent. Oh, Victor Fell, 44 months. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we got a couple of resubs here. Sally Salmon, what up? Re for 33 months. We have Sadus for 50 months, and he is saying rent and period basis today. Great deals are there for you. Build a new life in the off-world colony.
50 months, wow.
And Holy Thug for 13. Excellent. And yes, indeed, INN is not banned. So yeah, we've got a fair amount of stuff to talk about. I want to start things off with the economy situation here before we dive into any of the war drama, because something that really affects a lot of basically the entire player base, anybody who has multiple accounts and uses Plex.
Right.
Plex has just been going fucking haywire. Aerith is not just a great financial sociopath, but he's on the CSM as well. So, Aerith, can you tell us what the hell has been happening with the market? What can we expect? And is it going to change? I mean, is there a solution that CCP is going to engage with? Where are we at?
So this all started back really in December with the big event where you saw a lot of, like, you need to think of this market as a finite amount of real money that can pour into EVE at any given month, right? This is people that buy Plex, with real life money and then sell it in the game, or they're paying for their subs with real money, right? Kind of think of those as 2 buckets of one bigger bucket. Well, with the December event and the huge run on injectors, which require extractors, which is money, and then people coming back, to do that event because you had better rewards if you're Omega, that sort of thing, you started to see, Plex, the float, what we call the float, which is like how much Plex is on the market at any given time compared to how much Plex is sitting in hangars, right? You saw that float starting to evaporate. Like you could watch the market daily and you would see less and less volume maintaining the price. That went through January, and I think there was a general consensus, probably among most players, that would self-correct, right? You would start going back down. Plex would slowly fall again, but it always rises over time, but it wouldn't have taken that huge leap that it did. And instead, what we've seen is a large speculation sort of rush. Obviously, this new promotion that they just started was fantastically ignorant. I think it was misguided.
Which promotion are you talking about?
Ooh.
This is the one where a resub right now is 425 Plex rather than 500. So effectively a 15% discount. But, in the first few hours after that, the Plex price itself rose 10%, negating 2/3 of the savings, right? So this sale isn't near as attractive as it could have been. And by sale, it's a sale, I guess, but it's not the typical sale where they sell you Plex at a discount type thing. It's an interesting way to go about it, I guess. If you're trying to goose, the people that can come back for this, Skill Point weekend, or the people that will come back to Eve and get your DCU up. However, I think this was kind of the wrong approach. And I don't think it's going to have, at least in the short term, I don't think it's going to have a great effect. Now, long term, I think it's not a big deal, but we need to get back to a sense of normalcy so we don't just have speculative ISK crashing into Plex over and over and over, because the fundamental thing that feels like it's changed is, in the past, players knew that Plex would rise over time. They're kind of like treasuries. You get a pretty solid return. It's a safe place for your ISK. It's very, very liquid, so you can get in and out fast if you quit Eve or come back. And you would make good money over the years. But you knew that it was a regulated market by CCP, and you knew that CCP could intervene at any given time and wreck you for 6 months and negate profit, run a huge sale that makes you wait longer. Just lots of little things could occur, but it was a regulated market per se. Now, there's a general consensus, I think, among the CSM when we talk with each other, that this is not healthy. What we don't want to see is 5 million is Plex coming up from, the 3.5s or the low 3s in such a short period of time. It's not that Plex rising bothers you with inflation, over time. It's the speed at which Plex has risen that's very concerning. So there's some professions like high-sec mining, for example. Those sort of professions would be washed out where it would take so many hours to produce a Plex subscription that some of those players may start atrophying out, or we start seeing attrition in the player base. And that's what we don't want to see. My personal feeling is we don't see that until about 5 million plus, some of the lower professions. With the nerfs coming, it's kind of a double whammy. So income generation is going to be going down for players, which long-term is healthier because it'll probably slow the Plex rise long-term. But in the short-term period, we're seeing a pretty serious disruption in the Plex supply.
Okay, to give some numbers here, real quick. I went back through the graphs and the charts in Eve to show where Plex was just in October. So this is not that long ago, just a few months. Plex price per million was 3 million ISK. Plex price as it stands now is 67% higher at 4.45 million. Plex price per month. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things that was interesting is back in the day when I was on the CSM, a zillion years ago now, CCP had hired a university professor named Eyjolfur Gudmundsson. I'm probably mangling his name because Iceland. However, one of the things that was interesting is that they had a specific mechanic involved in order to regulate the Plex market, because they wanted to protect against speculation. Because in a game where so many people rely upon Plex in order to fund their accounts, and it's a healthy thing, it's great for the company, but they needed to make sure that there was some sort of a backstop if the market seized up due to speculation. And what they would do, and since it's been more than 5 years, none of this is NDA for little old me anymore. What they would do is any Plex that were seized in RMT, like a player would get banned for RMT and they had a bunch of Plex on their account, they basically use this to create a floating reserve of banned Plex. So in a speculative frenzy or something like that, they could add liquidity to the market to prevent runs in this circumstance. Now, Dr. Ayo left CCP probably 5-6 years ago now, and I'm not sure whether CCP is doing anything like that. I've never seen a sale where they rely upon the market to provide the discount, right? Like cutting the amount of Plex you need to get a sub is just is our area, like, for people who don't understand the details of microeconomics, which is certainly me. Looking at this, is this like a talent gap? Like the people at CCP who used to know how to handle the markets at this level are just not doing stuff? Have they changed their policy? Like, what's going on? It seems like the protective mechanisms that existed to regulate the market aren't there anymore.
Well, I gotta be a little careful here. I don't want to do anything NDA, but I will say my opinion I can give those is that there has been a lot of turnover at CCP. I don't know that CCP's had to look at Plex, or even the players have had to look at Plex for a very long time. Like, it's been fairly healthy, a fairly slow and steady gain ever since they converted it from 1 to 500, right, as far as the breakout. But this is some of the actions that CCP has taken at the macro level have definitely caused this speculative rush. And these can get out of control pretty quickly. We call them the death spiral, where you just have more and more ISK flooding in. It's, the tulips, right? The greater fool theory, and that's already occurred once. One large holder stepped in and listed his stock, and it kind of spooked the market, and it crashed a little bit. But then CCP ran this sale. So what we don't want to see happen is someone like me wade into the market, where it doesn't matter if there's several stacks of 2.7 trillion. We just obliterate them, if we thought we could keep the market running. Now, I obviously can't do that because I've told CCP I won't do that, and I do it as a courtesy. I don't believe manipulating Plex is healthy for the game, so I don't participate in that. But there's going to be a lot of people that just see a gravy train, and they keep coming and keep coming. And so we need to get this under control in the player's psyche more than anything, so that people don't just think, hey, it's a gravy train if I just plow ISK into Plex.
Let me ask this question. A very market knowledgeable person in Quern said this, that one of the ways, and maybe you give your opinion on this, to stem speculation is the CCP to put like a tax on speculators, on the way that, so when they go to buy up Plex, they're not just going to buy up 1,000 units and hold on to it because they're not going to see that much of a gain from it. Is that something they could do? Maybe I'm miswording the way he worded it.
Well, there's several things they could do. Like there's the easy thing, which is something they've done in the past that's sort of public. They talked about it, so I can talk about it, which is the crash and grab, which was using banned Plex to drive down the price of Plex and then kind of trying to rebuy, the amount roughly that they spent crashing it, right? And so it's a net negative, or net negative at the price, but it's net neutral for CCP's bottom line, right? It doesn't hurt the revenue. That's one way to go about it. That's kind of the soft touch approach that they would have done during the Dr. E days. Now, you have the option, if you really wanted to, is what I call the nuke. And this would be something where Plex has a time limit where it's auto-applied to your account or something, where if they wanted to really be draconian, they could force the whole float to market and force a more real-time thing with Plex. However, that does remove like the kind of the treasuries of Eve from the game. So I'm not sure I really support it unless it's just critical for the health of the game. And it would screw over a ton of people that have quit and just cashed out into Plex. They'd come back with like 10 years of game time or something, and that'd be pretty funny.
Yeah, it's the question is like, what happens if it gets to 5? I've seen comments that say you're going to see the actual active player base start to decline because the people who pay for the game with Plex, like I do, I sub 7 or 10 accounts now, something like that, with nothing but Plex, and I offset that with skill injectors, right? That lowers the price back down. I take my active characters and turn them into skill injectors, and that brings it down from, like, say, 15, 16 billion a month down to, like, 1 or 2. But how does that work for a guy that's just getting into Eve that maybe wants to start up his Eve career? He's not going to be able to do that, right? So where does it go from here?
It's what I have told people to watch for is look for the low-end professions to be impacted first. And this is like high-sec mining or high-sec mission running, things that are couriers that don't make a lot of ISK per hour. And so the hours per month to sub for an Omega is going to be just prohibitive with real life, right? You're going to see that change. Now, I would expect to hopefully see some of that go into real life money where they're just billing off a credit card or something, and that'd be great for CCP. But there is going to be attrition at some point. It's speculation on my part of where that is. I think it's north of 5. I've consistently said that for a while. But that target changes over time as Plex appreciates in price. But generally, my feeling has been greater than a 50% rise in a 90-day period is really bad. And that's what we're starting to see now. We're touching on that for a 90-day period, and that's very not healthy.
Yeah, we're at I think 68% since October is the rise in Plex.
Yeah, like it's the 3 months or 6 months I don't like. People, the natural inclination, if you're a human, is like, oh, maybe I should wait a little while and the price will come down. And that becomes self-fulfilling. Enough people unsub and fall to Omega that does become self-fulfilling, and that actually hurts the bottom line. That actually hurts Eve with, Omega players in the game. So we don't want to see that, but still want to maintain price appreciation for Plex on the long term. It just can't be 67% or whatever it is in 6 months. That's not healthy. That literally just becomes somewhere where everyone's in on the spec, and we should all just put all our ISK into it. And I single-handedly would mess that market up. So we don't want to see a bunch of people doing that. And the only way to stop that is for CCP to step in and say, you know what, this is regulated. We're going to Hulk smash.
Yeah, I mean, is it possible, and I mean, this is, of course, speculation on my part, is it possible for CCP to set a hard price? To say, look, the most Plex will ever be allowed to be listed in-game is X amount of dollars. Or, not dollars, ISK. So, like, they set a hard price where the game only allows it to go up to 4 ISK. You know, price controls are bad. But I'm curious, does that help or hurt?
I mean, all that does is literally hit the peg and it'll stay there forever and it'll just be some arbitrarily screwed up market.
Okay.
They either need to decide, is it regulated or not? And I feel like, you know, that decision needs to be made pretty quickly. And then if it is regulated, do they feel this is unhealthy? If yes, what do they do about it? Like, it's kind of a 3-step decision-making process. And I can't publicly say where I think they're at in that process, but I will say that I've tried to give them the best advice I can. I do believe that CCP, I mean, they said in Amsterdam that they are somewhat concerned, I guess, that they're looking at it. So I would be very careful on speculating in Plex. However, you know, where the healthy level is, none of us really know. Maybe it's at 10 million for all we know. I doubt it. You know, I don't think anyone's going to want to pay, like, let's just say $5 billion a month per account.
Right.
Like, I don't think that's ever going to happen in the near term. And so we need to figure out where attrition is and how do we keep it down. Like, those are the 2 things we need to know.
Okay, and then the next part of the economy question is the patch is here. You weren't here to talk about this. We're looking at mining changes with oracles. We're looking at ratting changes with supers, carriers. Combined with the Plex going up, where does that put the economy and health-wise? Is that good, bad?
Well, it's the double whammy, right? So long term, you want to see these income generation nerves, whether it's mining or ratting, even though, you know, ratting gives direct disk, at least mining, you know, it's a certain number of hours a month compared to ratting. You want to see that dynamic and ratio roughly stay the same between ratting and mining. You know, there's always a scalability that comes with mining that isn't with ratting necessarily, unless you're like AFK VNI or something, and that's getting kind of nerfed. So we're going to see overall income generation go down. The Anom spawn changes are definitely dropping income generation, so we're going to see that in the MER. We're going to see overall generation drop. So that's healthy long term because it would suppress the percent increase per year of Plex. But in the short term now, we have this frenzy of super high Plex price relative to what it was 90 days ago, weird sales that are making that worse, SP injection by CCP, which, you know, does things to the skill farmer economy, even though they're not a large percentage of the players, but it also impacts other players and extractors and injectors. And then you have this short-term spike where everyone's like, oh, I need to log in and I get better rewards with Omega. So in the short term, you have all this demand on Plex and for people to go buy Vegeta right now and apply them to get Omega or apply them for whatever. And then you have this sort of lower income generation where they can't afford as many. So it's going to be interesting to see, does this change the percentage of players contributing to Plex or subscription fees? And does it bring in enough real-life whales that want to spend, you know, $200 or $300 of real-life money on E for a month to treat themselves for a few billion? Does it bring in more of those that otherwise would not? And then are they one-time or not? So this is uncharted territory for the players in CCP. I think we're going to be getting metrics that we've never really had before.
I have a couple of real quick follow-ups, and then I want to move to War and Murder and talk about what's been happening with Snuff. But real quick on the CCP economic regulation issue, do you know, as a CSM member or otherwise, are you aware of where the sales are coming from within CCP? Like, is it like you will see promotions coming from like the marketing department in companies? And my question is basically, are the people that are responsible for coming out with this new and particularly foolish sale in touch with, are they the same people as the people who are attempting to unfuck the Plex economy, right? Is this a situation, because I've seen this in the past with CCP in particular, where, you know, the marketing guys are doing one thing and promoting one stuff, you know, one avenue, and then you know, Dr. AO, et cetera, are like trying to clean up the mess or deal with whatever in a different area. Is there communication? Is there integration? Or is this like what the fuck, basically? How did this happen?
I'm going to be as diplomatic and as NDA protecting as I can be. So I'll say 2 things. It is not the same team, and we are not in contact.
Well,
thank you. That answers all that.
I was concerned about. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense because my eyes glaze over whenever we talk about like moon mining or any of this Plex stuff. But even I was able to see that having a sale that's based upon reducing the amount of Plex needed to get a 30-day subscription isn't a real sale at all and doesn't make the slightest bit of sense because you would just see what exactly happened right now. So. Wow.
Well,
okay.
As we're getting ready to move on, real quick, I did ask someone that I trust that does this kind of research a question about where does ISK per billion stand on like the Chinese markets and these guys that do RMT sites. They're down to $4 a billion now. Just this time last year, it was 15.
We lost Bo.
Okay. Well, let's.
Sorry. Anyway, that. Well, we can move on. Yeah,
I'm going to go ahead and, I don't really want us to be talking about, like, black market.
I like to look into all this stuff, so that's why it's one of those market things that pop up. But moving on, Haiwanto's here, and our first topic of war and death and lots of booms is... Haiwanto said something...
Let's put the Nullsec Power Hour graphic up.
We could do a graphic. There we go. All right, so Haiwanto said something really eerie last week. He goes, I can't wait for this week to happen. I look forward to this week. And it was right at the end of the show, and it was kind of like a snide comment. We tried to get him to tell us what he meant, but he wouldn't. And then Sunday happens, and things blow up, and Haiwanto is here to tell us all about that. So what the hell happened Sunday? And
I didn't say in a week. I just said, I can't wait for what happened, right?
Something like that.
Yeah,
right, it was very ominous, yes.
I mean, you fuck with the bull, you get the horns, right? And, yeah. But it was a pretty standard setup. Test has a lot of hubris, and me and Tao were, at the gym, working out really gaily together, you know how it is, buddies and stuff. And we were planning the test drop. We contacted a few friends in Stain and got some dreads together. That we used the money that Vili had given us from the Geminate Dread drop, that he, as our friend, had given us money for helping him and ProGod Legend in their drop, right? He gave us some money, we used that to buy the dreads to kill Test. It was a pretty simple op. We just baited them using Inner Hell. Inner Hell tackled a few Rorquals, and then for some reason Refreitas just decided to gate into the system. And they all just got tackled, and then Test dropped Faxes to save it, and then one super, and then they dropped the load. At that point, we dropped 100-ish dreads, and then Init bridged in a Goku type of fleet. What do they call again? The MJD stealth bomber fleets.
Oh,
Stuka
fleets, yeah.
Yeah, they bridged in a Stuka fleet and helped us clear tackle and clear bubbles off, which is why we got most of our dreads out. Because Test has their super fleet deployed away, they didn't have many shield faxes or supers in the area, so their response time was really, really slow, which enabled us to kill 2 Titans and 8 Hells, which was a pretty considerable dunk and, pretty good comeuppance for the Keepstar.
Nice. So we do have a comment here, and maybe you could talk us through some more of this. This is from Creature. Creature was the guy in Test who handled the defense, and this is something that I feel is common in any region of space that has a super carrier umbrella. He says, the crabs were a little too eager to drop. Someone with no credentials took charge of the situation, then told Supers and Titans to jump in. We actually had intel that there was a Dread Bomb in range of us, but we didn't know if it'd be Esoteria or Amentia, so we were watching both. But if there was no legit FC to be around, they didn't know that was going to be coming. So all these crabs didn't know it was coming. So we encourage our guys to do what they can to save ships outside of fleets, but sometimes it bites you in the ass. None of those super capitals will be getting SRP or got SRP. By the time someone official was around, there were already dreads on the field, and with the amount of firepower, not much lasted very long without support. So that was from Creature. He can't be here today to talk about it. So is that how you felt? Like, did you know that this was the perfect time to do it because there was no one around, or like why did you do it then?
I mean, it's not. The whole point of Dread Bombs is surprise, right? You don't like do it when you know they're fully formed up, but at the same time, we didn't know who was around. We just kind of went for it, but we basically just look at the form and then just decided to go for it. it's kind of easy because you know that the super fleet's far away, and even like the most seasoned of FCs, if someone drops 100 dreads on you and you have your pants down, you're not going to be able to deal with it quick enough, and you are going to lose a substantial amount. They did trickle in really, really slowly, which is quite surprising since Test is quite a blob. Like, they took a really, really long time to actually counter drop. Like, if you compare their reaction time to like the reaction time of Goons, it was really, really slow, for example.
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I watch in EVE is how people react to things like this, because I like Dread Bombs. I worked with Haiwanto on one and Geminate. And then NC Dot and Test had a similar drop like this, where you guys did a Dread Bomb against NC Dot, and they kind of trickled in an Erebus and a Nyx, and you just kind of killed a bunch of Titan Supers. Did it feel kind of like that in the way that Test responded?
Yeah, it's a pretty good... Yeah, it was very similar to that, actually, because they kind of just went in blind and then really, really slowly trickled stuff in, and I think they didn't have... NC Dot didn't have a proper FC. They had, like, Cinder FCing, who's now in Test as well. Some random guy who just kind of choked and panicked, and then they paid the price for that, and we extracted a lot in that one as well. So, yeah, it's pretty much identical to that. It's a pretty simple Dread Bomb, but it's pretty effective.
Now, because you got most out, are you going to be looking to use these again in the area when the opportunity strikes, or is this one of those like, yeah, we got you back for not letting us kill that Keepstar, and now we move on. Let's get back to killing NC Dot and PL.
I mean, we never move on, right? We always hold grudges. We're angry, you know, men. We're the evil snuffed out, you know? We only love the Mitani and Jay Amazingness and Sister Bliss. There's no love in our heart for anyone else.
It's only because we're
wow, that's mean. I see how it is. Like, don't even love me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Tao loves you both.
I know.
Like, you can join Snuff anytime you want.
No, that's okay. I like where I'm at. But this is
wow.
Sorry, I'm just the way it is. I've been offered to join a lot of places in EVE and never have. But this is a serious thing, because you see this with groups that have super cap umbrellas, where the guys who should be doing the defensive fleets tend to just be busy off doing something else. A lot of the Goon big leader guys usually tend to be off doing other more important things, and then some guy who's been making money in his Titan or Super goes, oh shit, I'm tackled, please come save me, and then people just jump in. I think there was a joke running in Goons for a bit, this was a while ago, so I'll share it, where one of the leader type Super Cap FCs would just go in, light a sign, and go, jump, help me, just to see who would jump. And you'd see Titans jump, and you'd see Supers jump, and he would do it like in a safe Keepstar or something where there'd be no danger. But it was fun to watch just how, and educate people on not to make that mistake. Hey, don't jump to random people saying, hey, jump. And that's always a struggle when you have so many Titans, so many Supers, and people just wanting to get in and get kills. So it's interesting to see this happen to a Test or to an NC. But as we move forward here, and I'll get some commentary from you on this. Another Casino War alliance has died. Drone Walkers has fail cascaded. They have We-Dotted merged into Requiem Eternal. Their leadership has quit. They're done. For those that don't remember, during the Casino War, Drone Walkers were the first Solve War involvement. They came out of the drones and were Solve War hacking in Tenal, and then moved on to Branch and FCON space. So they were some of the first people to be like actually going after hard targets during the Casino War. So they're now dead. So another one bites the dust. Mittenjira not keying up.
I'm sorry, I was pressing the wrong button. Yeah, that's not Shift Enter. Yeah, I think it's interesting to see people slowly withering and dying. I mean, it was only a matter of time because they were hired. They were one of the first people who were getting paid for by dear old fuck. What was that guy's name?
It was Suis and someone else that was paying for it.
No, it was
Lenny.
Lenny, right? Yeah. I literally forgot his name. That's
yeah,
funny.
Lenny. They promised to hack, and because they had just done this to the drones, right? They just hacked like 80 systems in a day, and they proved that they could do it. So Lenny was like, "Okay, we'll pay you to go."
Guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
Well, anyway,
speaking
of the drone regions and not just up there, I want to give a big shout out here to an alliance that hasn't really gotten much attention or credit for this. Imperium forces are active in doing some things in the Galactic Northeast, and an awful lot of iHubs have been destroyed. But there's a little alliance with only about 200 members in it called Unspoken, that over the course of the last few weeks, working Unspoken and Laserhawks have been instrumental in just absolutely massacring 25 plus hubs in bot territory. And some of Imperium SIGs and squads have been involved in a completely deniable way as well. But I don't want to make it sound like Unspoken and Laserhawks don't have a huge contribution to make on this.
Oh, they're beyond huge. They've been doing it for months, right? Like, this is something that they've been involved
30,
in. Yeah.
30 hubs.
It's exactly 30 today, yeah.
So we're in an interesting position here. As we've made no real secret of on the Meta Show, we're attempting to see whether it's possible, and it might not work, right? As you guys have been watching us for many years now, periodically we will try a new campaign idea or a new something or other, and it'll fuck up horribly, and we'll have to eat some crow over it, right? Like the whole Viceroy thing didn't work. We periodically have these great ideas, or we think they're great ideas, we try them out. Over the years, we've tried to harass renters and degrade the capacity of NC and PL to make money from renters, and the drone regions are sort of seen as these inaccessible areas. So we've been doing this tag team approach now, where we have SIGs and squads and local allies working against Brothers of Tangra, while simultaneously attempting to promote a loss leader region. Like, we're basically opening a period basis for renting, and we're doing it at essentially at cost, right? We're not going to make very much money out of it, purely to put pressure on NC's income stream. And we're starting to see, I know it's working now, not just because a bunch of iHubs have blown up, but because we have seen actual crying emails, I should say, from Lady Scarlet about this topic, going out to the Alliance Brothers of Tangra, and even somebody who was being told to pay up on time regardless of the fact that the area has become inhospitable, complaining about the fact that he received no support from that. I think Boat has some.
Yes, I do. Oh, I got some leaks for you. So, as Mitten says, there was several Alliance mails, and here's the link to it right here, that was sent out by Lady Scarlet to Bot. She's the manager of Bot. She informs them that, look, we're at war here. We know that your space may be uninhabitable, so we're going to move you around if we need to. But whatever you do, don't go join the period basis rental empire that goons are making, because, look, you're just secondhand citizens. If you go there, you're not going to get all the services you need to survive, and it's just not going to work for you. But keep paying us, because that's really important, and we're your best interest, okay? On top of that, she sent an Alliance mail today, reminding everyone that, just because they're at war doesn't mean the payments have to stop. There is no stop payments. You still got to pay your rent for your little one-system apartment that you live in. Otherwise, you're going to be evicted. And then a guy replies, and this is kind of uncharacteristic of renters. Renters usually just pay the rent and shut up. This guy replies going, yeah, but what about my $7.5 billion in structures that just got wasted by this 200-man alliance? What am I supposed to do here? And she replies with, first off, don't come to me with that. Take it to your rental manager. And look, it's part of life. You're gonna lose stuff. We'll deal with it later. Like, shoo off, fly. And this puts her in a precarious situation, because does she kick the guy and show that insubordination doesn't work, and then thus, look bad? Does she not kick the guy, and then the renters start to question, well, what's he not doing here? Or does she pay the guy, and then that loses her income? Like, she's in a hard bind, because this one brave guy said, hey, fuck, pay me back for what I'm losing here. We also have some audio logs, and I'd like to share a bit. So Bot's been trying to save their own space, and they run their own fleets. Usually NC.dot takes over the command structure of it all. But we do have some great audio logs for you, and this comes from a special unnamed group that I will not name that provide these kind of things. So here we go. This is them announcing to their members after we stole 15 structures that were just, well, okay, I say stole. They were given to us. They were a gift from somebody who was robbing his way out of the place. Include a couple Fortizars and such. And so this is what they said about those citadels in their space. So hopefully the audio works.
I don't want to say this, I don't mean to be ill of the unfortunate. We've killed more in goon structures than they're going to kill in iHubs and TCUs over the next month. So don't panic, guys. Quick.
It's apparently too quiet.
Okay, it's really quiet. let me see if I can get the audio jacked up. But basically, they're doing like morale speeches pretty much every day. So let me get this going here. But I want to ask, and Haiwanto's here, and he has something to talk about while I get this set up. And this is apparently NC Dot. We saw a couple of dead NC Dot allied Titans, or one allied Titan and one hostile Titan. And that Titan was killed by what? What happened here?
So apparently, I think it's that Recrab guy. He's lost like 7 Titans already. He like RMPs for loads of money and stuff, and he always has Titans. He like there was a big split off in the imbalance, and he left, but he still lives in the area. So I think the imbalance called NC Dot and Skill Yourself to help them bait out him, and he was playing POS games with them. So I think they were baiting with an Erebus, and then he poked his head out, and I think Skill Yourself was in subcap, so I guess they were helping to like bump it out or something. I'm not too sure. And then he poked his nose out. Then NC Dot jumped in to doomsday him, and I think the wrong Erebus is broadcasted, and then they DD'd off their own bait, and then eventually killed the other Erebus.
They killed their bait Erebus. So we looked at this and went, "What the fuck? All these Titans just killed the Imbalance who work with them, right? Like these are Skill U, part of the Skill U Renter Empire." So there we go. I've got the audio jacked up.
There's also one other highlight of NC stuff. There was a Jumpgate in Tribute that got blown up by diamond rats.
Africanized rats. This happens. They've shot our Citadels. I think they shot a Fortizar once. Because if you gun them and shoot at them, they will then turn around and shoot you. And so this happened. So here we go.
I don't want to say this. I don't mean to be ill of the unfortunate. We've killed more in Goon structures than they're going to kill in iHubs and TCUs. Over.
So I don't know if you guys can still hear that. That's as loud as I can make it. But basically the guy says, we've killed more goon structures than they're ever going to kill in iHubs and TCUs. So don't worry, guys. We've got this. And then there's a couple audio logs. I'll try to get these to you.
Let's not worry about the audio stuff.
But they're hilarious. It's just fun. It's great.
There's a couple of interesting dynamics here. So one of the things we were talking about on the Fireside Chat is the way that I've been describing this campaign internally. Of course, I wasn't planning. I didn't sleep very much last night. I was up way too late playing Warframe, which has been a recurring problem. And so I kept slipping during the Fireside and calling it a campaign instead of just saying SIGs and squads. And well, the cat's out of the bag. But I've been analogizing it to Amazon.com just wasting hundreds of millions of dollars in order to drive diapers.com out of business. There's a hilarious episode of Patriot Act by Hassan Minhaj on Netflix where they go into Amazon and how Jeff Bezos got told no by diapers.com when they wanted to acquire it. And in order, the response from this was to waste hundreds of millions of dollars selling diapers at basically nothing in order to drive away Diapers.com's business, and then bought them after they were bankrupt. And that's basically what the Imperium is doing with Period Basis. We already have a shitload of money. We're pretty much the best in the game at making money currently, which is hilarious considering where we started. So the whole Period Basis thing is less about, oh my god, it's going to make us rich. We're going to run the region at a loss as far as other rental regions go because we're just weaponizing it to go after NC's rental streams. So that is the pitch. And please, if you or anybody else is interested in that, contact Sadis. Now, one of the other things I want to say about this, and one of the reasons why we're talking about this, a lot of times when we'll start a campaign, something like the Viceroy program, you don't really know whether it's going to work until you start seeing the tiers, right? Or salt, or whatever you want to call it. And one of the things that's been fascinating about this week is not merely the number of iHubs that have been destroyed, but the fact that we are seeing open dissent, you're seeing complaints, you're seeing alliance mails, you're starting to see actual impacts from the mouths of our targets, which is fantastic. So I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
And some people have started calling it a diaper war. Which is pretty ridiculous.
But this is why it got brought up today, right? Like normally you don't talk about something you're doing quietly. You want to keep it quiet. But when your enemy openly starts like infighting, that's when it makes news.
When they start talking about your campaign, then you can go ahead and talk about it, right?
When the infighting happens, it makes news. Yeah. And so this is what you're seeing. Like you would have never seen a renter backtalk someone they're renting to because they would just get kicked out, right? Back in the day, XX or PL, when PL ran this, they just shoot him in the back of the head. Like, hey, you want to talk? Okay, bye. This is something new. NC Dot needs this money. And Aerith, if you can comment on this, I believe you commented about a month ago that they just don't have the moon income that others have, and they don't have the infrastructure set up. So this rental income is kind of what only income they have, correct?
Yeah,
I mean, it's not their only campaign, but it's. Oh, sorry, you cut off when you said you tagged Aerith, and Aerith, you take.
Yeah, I meant to tag Aerith. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, like it is basically the lion's share of their income, right? They don't have large industry. They don't have large taxation rates within their alliances, their space they can use. They have to fund their allies to some degree. Like there's a lot of conjecture that Horde gets money from NC on occasion, and so it's not even just their own bills they have to worry about. And then they have to somehow not only try to save money for the next time there's a huge Titan on Titan brawl, if they're willing to take it, they have to start investing in infrastructure, which they don't have the money to do. So now they're seeing infrastructure being blown out of the drone regions that they have to replace. It's not like iHubs aren't billions and billions each. Even if you're just upgrading them through ratting, like that stuff adds up. So now they got to go and replace a bunch of iHubs that they didn't really have the logistics to do in the first place or the IS to do, and now they got renter structures being blown up. So if your selling point to trying to keep the renters in your space is, well, goons won't let you have the structures you really want. Well, does it matter if you're fucking getting blown up in their space? Like, no, you might as well go in the back of goon space where it's super safe and just hang out and crap at will.
Right. So I do want to point out this is. We learned this in the Declan campaign, that you can do a salt the earth war where when you kill all these moon miners that you're seeing start to die, the Athenors and the moon mining platforms, that resets that moon to a 74-day frack, right? If they want to get the most out of that moon. How much? I'm sorry?
56.
56. So it takes 56 days before they can start making money on it again. And they have to remine it, retower it. In the case of the structures that were given to us, it took them 12 days to kill them. So that just adds to that time. So that system became unmineable now for 2+ months. So if you're trying to make money off moon mining, which is what their selling point to these renters is, hey, we're going to let you moon mine, we're going to give you full access, but the goons won't. Well, how could you do that if you can't use the place for 2 months? So iHubs and moons are huge.
It's what Lady Scarlet is saying is true. Like when we're offering period basis, it's not the same deal that NC Dot offers. We're not letting people build super caps. We're not letting people moon mine. It is a great region and it's dirt cheap, but it is, we're not going to lie about it. It's not the same as what Bot offers, because Bot is supposed to be this full-scale premium. You can build as many super caps as you want kind of thing. Our success condition on this is essentially we don't have to get rid of all of their renters. We just have to degrade their income by a decent percentage while, I guess, padding our own. But mainly it's about just finding the ones that are providing the most amount of income. And maybe period basis isn't a great deal, but the other angle about this is, let's say that they just go rent from some Russians, or they rent from Fraternity, or they rent from Horde, or something like that. Currently, NC Dot is probably the most effective of our foes in terms of just their super capital strength and their management layer.
Using that money, right? Like utilizing it to its fullest.
So, like, if you knock an NC renter off and they go rent from Horde, then okay, that gets turned into gabloons and embezzled or something.
They go rent from Fraternity and it gets banned every month because their alliance leader gets banned, right? Like, NC Dot is a pretty stable income environment for rental and money, right? Like, it's going to get used in a way. But here's a thing that's interesting, and we're starting to see. I don't usually toot my own horn on here. I try to be quiet about it because I don't like talking about the things I do in EVE. But this is something that we're starting to see in the last month or so: the weaponization of AFK cloaking. We've seen guys like a guy named Marshy who does it with 100 alts of his own alts. We've seen other people do this in the past. I forget the guy's name. It starts with an R, but he has like 40 alts he used to camp us with, and he was well known. But you're starting to see people buy these Replicator, buy these pilots to go AFK camp places. And Marshy's an alt that we watched because he was in Delve for several months because he had a little hate boner for Delve because we blew him up a lot. But now he has been hired to go after other places, and I actually got some comments from people that are hiring him. One of those is Fraternity. Fraternity has hired his services. They've hired a bunch of his alts to go camp Tenefris. And we're also seeing his hiring services being used against Skill U for some unknown reason. We tried to figure out who's buying him there. But you're starting to see the weaponization of AFK camping. Another thing, too, is that all of these pilots that are used to AFK camp are used as skill farm pilots, so they basically cost nothing to do, right? Like, you turn them into making skill injectors. So they can seed these characters. So you're starting to see the weaponization of AFK camping, which started wholesale and region-wide with NGSA in Declan. So this could be something that really hits rental income, because guys with active super cap umbrellas don't care about a guy that's AFK camping. What's he going to do to you? He's just going to look at you funny, right? He goes to drop on you, well, you've got people to save you. But renters don't have that. Renters don't have standing fleets. They don't have people coming to save them when their Oracle gets tackled. So AFK campers can be a real big problem for them. So it'll be interesting to see in the next few months what happens as more and more AFK camping becomes part of the game.
We have a couple of comments here. So one of the things, we are in Cool Kids Only mode. So this is the thing we do at the last 15 minutes of every meta show. We put it as subscribers only, and we take questions from at least the cool audience, that is, those who are supporting the channel. This one, this is sort of a fireside question, but one from Terran Lazarus here, which is, will the active SIGs and squads be getting priority over peacetime fleets multiple times for the past few days? Peacetime hunting fleets were pinging about 20 minutes, reducing numbers in non-melee ships. SIGs and squads are completely deniable and have their own pings, and so if people are, we never want to restrict peacetime fleet pings, because that's one of the, fun things that we do, right? So people will naturally prioritize SIGs and squad ops and ask and integrate with the SIGs and squads to say, hey, are we going to be doing something soon? If we are openly discussing a content in the Northeast. And so that's one of the reasons we're talking about this openly, is such that people can make their own decisions about the strategic interest.
Yeah, we're not at war, right? We're not in a campaign. We're not at war. So we can't really stop peacetime fleets from going out, because how would they know that we're not at war, we're not campaigning, and we're not doing things? So they wouldn't know. These are new BFCs. But here we
are. Are you going to go to war, Mittani, anytime soon? Is the Imperium going to go to war anytime soon?
Future
because
plans and
there's no one that can match Phantom apart from Imperium.
Well, it depends upon what you consider to be war. I mean, one of the problems is that I slipped up today so many times on the fireside, and I used the campaign word and I used the war word, that the cat's kind of out of the bag. We're not formally deploying the Alliance to the other side of the fucking galaxy, because logistically speaking, that just doesn't make any sense. But is our strategic target to degrade the income stream of NC Dot such that we have a competitive advantage against them, and that they are split between Tribute and the drone regions, so that they have to keep moving their supers back and forth between the drone regions and Tribute, like they just had to do because the initiative is on their border?
Yeah, that's the next point I'm going to make. Thank you for bringing up the initiative, because I asked the initiative how they're going. I got a little update from them for the meta show. They said they're waiting on patch day. When patch day hits, their Stuka fleets will become godly, because application from fighters in supers and titans, or supers and regular carriers, won't be as big, and their ability to hunt people will be a lot higher. So that'll be a big thing. So you're seeing a lot of weight, and patch days coming. And then there was a spotted NC Super move. We noticed them going from deep in the drones. They're already back in SH1 today, which is kind of weird considering they just deployed a week ago to the middle of the drones to defend the drones. So why the fuck are all their supers home? That's the question no one has an answer to. Haiwanto, any idea?
I was browsing memes at this moment in time. I was not paying it.
Okay, what? Sorry, go ahead.
I'll jump in here. I want to say a few things about what we're seeing here happen from a strategic level. There have been one of the reasons why I'm excited about this project in the Northeast is that I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I have been attempting to come up with a way to go to war while not actually formally deploying and conquering space. We saw an iteration on this which worked out really well in the Galactic Northwest, which resulted in all of our faction Fortizars and the treaty with Guardians of the Galaxy, which got us our Dyson Sphere. And what's exciting to me about the whole period basis diaper war thing is that, it's different and it's hard, and we don't know if it's going to work or not. The fact that we're trying to find a way to attack somebody's income stream and degrade that, if people remember, it was more than a year ago now, where I was talking about, we had a gimmick for one of our deployments as being the dirty wars in Africa in the 60s. and that sort of thing. And that was basically, this is another iteration on that, is how do you have an effective guerrilla campaign that results in lasting strategic damage that impacts the placement of the blocks against each other in a real way, i.e. when Titans hit the field down the line. So how do you turn into a guerrilla war into something that the next time there's another X-47, you can look at the field and say, yeah, these guys can't put this number of assets on the field. They have less Titans. They're more gun shy because, one side has a shitload more money and better industry than the other.
This, I mean, not to do it. A good analogy here is the Cold War, right? You have the two big superpowers in EVE looking at each other while fighting in Yugoslavia and Venezuela and these little countries that where one side wants communism and one side wants this. So you're seeing this taken out in Renterspace. Nobody's ever touched the drones in 12 to 13 years because it's so hard to get to. But with the inclusion of Retaru, well, here we go. But let me put it like this. Ever since they added Retarus and Citadels, now you can. Because now you can live in the drones, a place that has 0 NPC solve, because you have a single Retaru that you could put a bunch of bombers in and harass anywhere in Black Ops range, right? You couldn't do that 5, 6, 7 years ago. You had to actually evict them through living there. And that was something that took time and effort, and no one really wanted to do. You're starting to see that in the North now. It's no longer going to be just rental home, because
Citadels do open up a lot more harassment
possibility. Yeah,
it's good shit. Yeah, so I think it's going to be interesting. Like, it's a different type of war in EVE, and hopefully it'll make a difference. We're just going to have to see.
The reason I bring up the Cold War is because you look at both sides. It's who can get the most Titans, who can save up the most money to replace those Titans. It's like the Cold War's race to the moon, right? Who's going to have the most? Because when the time comes for the missiles to drop, or like in this case, the fight to happen, who's going to have the most Titans, and who's going to be able to replace 100 Titans when those 100 Titans die? Looking at X-47, in that 1 week of a war, 77 Titans died. I
think it's a good analogy.
7 trillion.
I rarely like your analogies, but I think the Cold War, and we've seen phases with proxy wars in EVE. I'm not sure the drone regions were introduced at the time, but during the midst of the Great War, there was a lull where the powers involved fought over ISS, the Interstellar Starbase Syndicate. This is like 2007, and that was a proxy war between great powers who are sort of gearing up to go at each other more seriously in the second phase. And so I think that's what you're seeing here is like after the big X-47
this
fights,
is economic warfare.
Exactly. It's a combination of economic and military warfare fought through proxies in order to undermine the infrastructure of each entity to weaken them for the next big throwdown. So it's kind of a fascinating thing.
Update, it's now 31 iHubs. I'm sorry, one just died. So, not 30. I apologize. This is like the Declan War where we just, on the show live, announce as things die. But yeah, like the next hot war may never happen in EVE. We're starting to see this, like a hot war happen between Fraternity and Test. Today, Test dropped Titans on Fraternity.
There's going to be more hot wars in EVE.
Well, yeah, maybe you start one. But I mean, like, you may never get to the point where an alliance just dies. Aerith brought this up a couple weeks ago. Does NC Dot take the battlefield in a situation where they could lose another 100 Titans? Do they do it? Is it safer for them just to retreat? You know what I mean? So that's Aerith, go ahead. So that's what I mean by a hot war may never happen, because you go to that hot war, you get to that point where it's about to happen, and one side just says fuck it and walks away.
But I mean, people fuck up, right? Like, I don't think that NC Dot would necessarily put everything on the field against us, but BR5 happened because Manny screwed up. A lot of the major battles that happen start because somebody screws something up, the fleet gets caught, and then people over-escalate. Sunk cost fallacy kicks in. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be hot wars because we'll get bored and we'll kill each other. I think that the reason why you're seeing campaigns break out all across EVE in the last month or so is winter's over, people are itchy and they want to blow some shit up. So I think it's good. Okay,
I'm being told right now. Someone has brought this up in chat. He goes, and this is I guess one of the last comments we'll get here. He goes, let's scroll back a bit. What do you guys think about all these people getting hit for RMT, like Capcu, Norris, and Lady Scarlet? I was not aware of Capcu and Lady Scarlet, but apparently their wallets got hit with a negative hit. CSP has this new thing going on where if RMT is going on or botting's going on in your alliance, they hit your alliance for the value of whatever they catch. And apparently that's hitting Skill U now. That's interesting because I didn't know about that. So I'll have to research that more. I'll get back to you guys next week on that one.
And if we get a source that's not Jay Maricady, that would be cool.
Yeah, like I'll get you. I'll talk to people. I'll ask Capco and others and see if they got hit with negative wallets and stuff, because that's a first.
Well, no, it's not a first. We've had them hit in our alliance. Remember that one corp? I forgot their name.
I don't know. You tell me, Aerith.
What was the name of that corp, Mittens? They got hit for like 100 billion. What was it? It was one of the it was a corp that we were like looking at anyway. We're like, their income's really odd, for their membership. So they were kind of getting on our radar, but then they got neg walleted for like 100 billion because somebody was botting or something.
Oh, I don't.
When was this?
2 months, 3 months, maybe.
Oh, okay.
I
don't know.
I forget the name of them. It was one of our foreign corps.
Ah, right. One of the ones that we probably just got rid of during the
9 content, you mean?
I think we shot him. It was one of those. It was like one of the
Someone
three.
says Violent Rabbit.
That was more recent. Oh, that's another thing. We did have all those rumors last week from the guys in Fraternity trying to claim that Goonstorm was going to do some sort of grand purge, and lo and behold, no more Chinese corporations have been removed.
Oh, what a
Goonstorm.
surprise!
Only those that were affiliated with Fraternity, coming as a huge fuck.
Thanks, Incubus, for 35 months. The Dirty Diaper Denial Dilemma.
I just asked Capco about the thing, and Capco says that he got negged for 5 bill, but it wasn't to do with RMT. He's not sure why it happened.
Okay.
It's a mistake.
Yeah, they're saying that there was complaints by him on Kugu about it. But this is an interesting thing, so we'll find out. But I don't know. I don't know how NC.'s going to handle this, because having to go back and forth between Veil of the Silent and the Deep Dark Spire drone regions is a pretty big trek. That's 5, 6, 7 jumps for their Titan fleet. And to be honest,
fun to see what Initiative pulls off when NC. is.
And then kind of our last little bit here before we go, NC. has had a lot of internal gripes about this. A lot of their line members are complaining, like, we don't want to be defending our renters. What the fuck are we doing here? This is boring as hell. Can we go do other important, fun things? Like, there's been already they've been doing it for a week now, and there's already complaints.
You got to defend your renters, right? Like, if you got to defend your income stream, whatever it is, because if you don't have money, then you can't buy ships. So the era of NC. being able to rely upon passive moon income from R64s is over. So if you want to be committed to the drone regions, get used to schlepping from tribute to the drone regions, because that is going to be your life for the next several months, especially because the way that we like to do these campaigns, sorry, I used the campaign word again, is to drag things out for about a good 6 months or so, just to make sure that it just really fucking sucks to be the defender. And I think we got a pretty, like, I don't want to say we've got it down, we haven't got it completely nailed down yet, but we have a good record from the Northwest campaign, and it's nice to take that to the Northeast. So that's about all the time that we have
We're out of
this
time.
week.
That's it.
So I want to thank our lovely guests for joining us. I want to for giving us an update on the various adventures with Snuff, Aerith for the analysis of Plex earlier, and Boat for his fantastic Cold War analogy. Thank you all for coming, and we will be back next week, hopefully with more war updates.
32. It's now 32 IHUBs.
32 IHUBs.
I'm getting PM'd. I'm getting PM'd by one of our Black Hand guys as we're talking. 31, 32. So yeah. All right, bye guys.
You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.